Welcome to Quintessential Comics. I'm Alice Quinn, your host for today. This is our book club. Today we are discussing Nimona by Noelle Stevenson and Jughead by Chip Zdarsky and Erica Henderson. With me today, our friend Megan.
Hello. Hi, everybody.
And Helena.
Hello, hi.
Shall we? Alright, let's jump right into it. We're going to start with our graphic novel, Nimona. Who wants to go first? Yeah. Who wants to go first?
Not me.
Helena.
That's you.
All right, I guess. I really enjoy it. I've been a fan of it since it first started as a webcomic, and I had a friend who recommended it. I didn't think I'd like it to begin with, but I got so into it. I love it. I think it's a great story, and it's awesome. Yeah.
Shall we?
Nice.
Megan, I'll let you give your introductory remarks.
Introductory, Alice says, because I didn't read it, but I'm looking at the first couple pages of the webcomic that are still online at gingerhaze.com/Nimona, and as always in Ginger Haze form, the art is super cute. The lettering, I'm noticing, is very scratchy, but it still reads well, so that's great. And the color palette looks, it's limited, but it works really well. So far so good. And the gags look super cute as well, which is about all I can say for now until I get further into it. Main character is super cute too, even with her very punky haircut.
Sweet. So I'm just screen sharing with the public now. So this is the main character, Nimona. Punky hair, as Megan said. And this is her secondary supporting character.
Yeah.
Supporting character. Yeah. And his name is, hold on, it's like long and regal. I just want to make sure I get it right.
Widow's Peak Dracule.
No, it's like Sir Ballister Blackheart. And then,
of course it is.
Yeah, duh. And then there's this guy here who's like, coincidentally.
That's a guy?
Yeah, I know, right? That hair. Goldenrod, I think his name is.
Golden Loin?
Golden Loin?
Ambrosius
Golden Loin. Ambrosius Golden Loin.
Well, the names are starting off great.
So there's that. I really like it because it's not subtle. It's like, these are the characters. Get with it. Megan, I have to just say, super quick, I'm disappointed. I thought you just, hadn't read Jughead. But that's cool, because Helena's read Nimona, and we could discuss it, and I'm just, gonna drop that Jewish guilt right there, and then I'm never gonna pick it up again. I'm sorry, it's a habit of my people. So yeah, I really...
win me over. I'm the new reader. Tell me, why should I read this?
Yeah, I'll turn that into a challenge. I'll take that. So...
Yeah.
So I really like Nimona because it's more than meets the eye in a lot of ways. It starts off with this villain just chilling, and then this girl arrives in his doorstep, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm the new sidekick. Didn't you ask the sidekick service for a new sidekick?" And he's like, "There's a sidekick service," and so she sort of wins her way into his heart and his service by she's like, "Did I mention I'm a shapeshifter? Boom, I'm a shark!" And it's super cute. I'm gonna just bring up one of those pages for you. And yeah, so
my roommates are into it too.
Your roommates totally love this. So even from the beginning, there's a lot of interaction between the three characters. I'm just gonna bring something up on screen. So this is the first time Nimona meets Golden Loin in the service of Sir Ballister Blackheart, and you can tell right off the bat that nothing is really quite as you would expect between these two supposed archenemies. And later on in the book, you learn more about their past, but they set that up really. I mean, Noelle sets that up pretty early on, so I'm really happy with that. So that was pretty cool.
Between like the name and like the shape-shifting, like I'm a shark, it seems really like gag and sort of like playing on fantasy tropes in the beginning. Does the tone ever change in the book to something more serious?
Helena, I'm going to go to you on this one.
Okay. Well, first I'll say that was one of the reasons why I thought I wouldn't like it, because I thought it was really obvious, but it really does grow on you. And yeah, she does. It does get more serious as it progresses, and you get a lot more character development. But one thing I really like about it is that there's always, like, even if it's just the way that things are drawn or like the sound effects that are put in, there's always something to like break the tension. There's always some kind of humor that breaks it up nice, so nothing gets like too intense. But there are definitely like more serious issues that come into play.
Nice. You got me convinced, guys. I'm ready to jump in.
Okay, so is this the part where we spoil it for you and tell you the ending?
No, don't.
So
everyone dies. Robots.
Yeah, pretty much. So here are our options. What we can do is we can, Megan, we can ask you to just like take off your headphones and put you on mute while we discuss the end, and give also like sort of like a spoiler alert to the people watching who may not want the ending spoiled for them. Are you cool with that?
I could dig that. That's a nice feature to the show.
All right, we could do that. Before we do, let's discuss the art, because you can see the art. One of the things I do want to say is that I don't have any pages from the end of the book because they took them all off the internet, but the art gets a lot better at the end of the book. I'm just going to hold it up. This is like a relatively spoiler-free-ish page. So like you could tell there's a lot more shading and background, and like her lettering gets better. So
yeah,
that's one of those things, like when you do a webcomic, or like when you read a webcomic, you can see their like artistic progression through the years that they do it, because they get a lot better at everything, pretty much.
No, even like even these first pages, like as simplistic as they are, like they're still super strong, and like it's not losing me at all. Like the simple works with like these very basic color palettes and these very basic dynamic panels. And so to hear that it gets even better from there, you know, I'm excited.
Helena, we're throwing it to you.
I saw her at a panel at the Toronto Comic Arts Festival, and it was actually a panel on creating setting, and that was one thing that they got into, is that she's not big on creating like backgrounds, and she was talking about how she is just more comfortable, or she prefers to really spend a lot of time on doing the characters, and I think that comes
Don't we all?
I think that comes across really well as well, just in terms of like the story that they have. Like, she never gives you too much about them, but the little that she does give you, you can tell so much about them. So I think both in terms of how they're drawn and how they're developed, like, they're really like solid characters, which is something that I really like when I'm reading a story. They're believable.
It's almost Shakespearean.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is that in like Shakespeare plays, there would be no backdrops. You just had the stage and the characters, and the background would basically have to be established by the characters.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Thank you, Megan. Yeah.
You're so welcome.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that too. I felt like there was a lot put into the characters, and also I feel like she was really careful with her dialogue and her wording, because there's a lot, even in those first 3 chapters that you can access online, there's a lot that's suggested that's not like confirmed, and there's a lot of like really subtle, like, plot hints that come up later on in, like, Act 4, that she establishes with these characters early on, which is really good, because, you know, sometimes in webcomics they, like, futz around for a bit before they figure out what they're doing, whereas, like, even though, you know, she developed her artistic style more, she already sort of plotted it out, so, it's really tight. And I really appreciate that when reading a comic that used to be a webcomic. Is, I don't know, maybe Helena can tell us because she read it while it was online. But there isn't like a lot of unnecessary fluff. There are some scenes and stuff where it's more like character building and world building than like key plot points, but those are good and we like them, so there's no problem with that. Was there stuff that was in the comic that in the comic online that wasn't later in the published book?
There's actually the epilogue that's in the comic. It was not ever put online, as far as I know. I'm pretty sure that was just for the comic. The cool thing, though, that was on her, I don't even think it was on the actual comic website, but it was on her Tumblr page. If you were following there, she would put like little bonuses, like little like funny sketches of like Ambrosius and Ballister, like when they were kids and growing up, and that kind of gave them like a bit more of a backstory, which was really interesting. And there was like alternate dimensions where like they're like gay dads with Nimona as their daughter, and it was like a really cute thing. And it was just sort of like, it was when, because they were coming out weekly, sometimes things got really serious and you didn't know like what's gonna happen, and like, oh my god, someone's gonna die, it's awful. But then she'd like post one of these things like, just remember, in an alternate universe they're one big happy family, and it was just like a really nice sort of throw out to the fans. It was a really nice experience, the whole thing, when you put it together like that.
That's really clever, actually.
Yeah.
That's really great. I like that because it shows an awareness, and it also shows like not fan service but fan appreciation.
Yeah.
You know, in giving you those little tidbits, and I like how when creators make webcomics, they interact with their web audience differently than when they, you know, collect it and publish it as a book.
Mm-hmm.
And so having those like moments where it was like, yeah, I was there, and you have that connection is like really important.
Yeah.
Especially when that creator is able to like make that contact with their audience in a way that like a published creator can't, with just like a brick and mortar paperback novel or comic.
Yeah, because like, you know, you know, with webcomics, it's not like you're going through a publisher. It's not like somebody's filtering out your mail. You get to see everything, whether it's good or bad. So, I mean, it can be a double-edged sword, but I feel like, considering all the feedback I've read and I've heard about Nimona and Noelle Stevenson, like, I feel like she did a really good job of connecting with her fans, and that's like a part of why you know, this book was really successful. All right, so I think that's all we can discuss without spoilers. Is there anything else you guys wanted to bring up without spoilers? Okay, Megan, I'm gonna get you to turn off, but I'm gonna like just do a thumbs up to show you that spoilers are done. So just like take off your headphones.
Okay, the headphones are coming off.
Whoop.
All right, well now we can bash Megan.
Oh my gosh.
No, we're not going to. First off, there's nothing to bash.
And I just met her.
She's reading Jughead right now. Well, at least she'll be prepared. Okay.
There you go.
So for spoilers for the ending, first off, all the feels. So
oh my gosh. Like I said, the epilogue was not included in the original webcomic, and that like when I got the book and I finally read it, I bawled. I'm not gonna lie, it was so beautiful. And then I called the friends who had first recommended it to me, and I was like, have you seen this? We need to talk about this. And it was just like a whole thing. But yeah, no, I love the ending. I think I think it ends really well, even though it's not. It sometimes it's annoying to have endings where not everything is all nicely tied up, but it's such a good and like sincere ending that you can't help but love it, I think. What did you think?
I really liked it. I mean, I sort of, like, there were hints about her past, and I feel like Noelle did a really good job of, like, sort of misdirection with, like, the being afraid of lab bits, and we don't really get a full picture, and that you were saying that as well with loose ends, and I kind of really dig that, because it sort of leaves it up to the reader to decide their own ending, in a way of, like, oh, this is where she came from, and this is what happens after. But I really, really dig the ending, and I really dig how, like, after, underneath it all and after everything, Ballister and Golden Loin are, like, best buddies, and it's really, like, the government and, like, the man that drives them apart, and it's just, like, super sweet, and I cried, like, a bunch, because I'm an emotional person, and I love my comics.
I'm big on themes, and I think above everything else, it's very much a story of, like, moving past difficult things and basically forgiveness. And I think the way that it ends really sums that up well. Like, really fits that theme well.
Yeah.
Whether it's Ballister forgiving Golden Loin, or forgiving Nimona, or Nimona forgiving Ballister, like it's some like that the scene in the hospital where like it's just a quick like little wave. Oh my gosh, like it's perfect. It doesn't it doesn't need anything more than that, because that one frame just like sums it up perfectly. Just that it's about forgiveness and like the horrible things that happened, but we can move past that, and like then with the epilogue, like we can start new lives together and build new things. And I think that's a really nice message. It's a sincere message.
Yeah, it's a sincere message, and like above all, what has the impact is that it was done well. It was done, like they had that coming right from the beginning. They had sort of like hints right from the beginning, and also they had a lot of those really good character building scenes where you learn to love Nimona, and you learn, just to feel for the struggle they're going through. I'm gonna try to bring up another image.
Yeah. I also really like how she made us love Ballister. I think that was really important, because he's the bad guy.
Yes.
But by the end of it, you're sympathizing with him.
Very much so. So I want to bring up this one, which is really funny, It starts off with, in the previous page, he's talking to, like, the chick from headquarters who represents the man, and then it turns out it's Nimona, and she's just messing with him. Yeah. And, and she plays all these tricks on the people she's close to, because she wants to see what they're like when she's not there.
Yeah.
And I like how, first off, this character is able to do that because of her shape-shifting abilities. She can see what people really think about her by, like, pretending to be like a cat or, like, a different person. Mm-hmm. So that was really good, and it really comes into play at the end when you're just like, the other one, when they're in the hospital, and the woman's like, oh, she's a monster, and he's like, don't call her that. She's a person. And then it turns out to be her in disguise, and you're just like,
and it's great, right? Like, it's so many feels. But that was also, that page that you just showed was also really good, I think, in demonstrating what I was telling Megan before, of how, like, even when it gets really serious, like, Nimona especially always, like, gives some comic relief. So, like, she's just, like, scared the bejesus out of him. And then she's like, oh, you like me. And it's just, like, so it breaks it up. Like, there's always something funny, and, like, we really get a sense of her character. Like, she's just, like, she's big on joking around, which also works really well in misleading us, because at the end she gets so serious, and she gets so, like, I don't know, when she does go monster a bit, it's, like, it's scary. We wouldn't have expected that.
Yeah, and it's that all that more impactful because usually she's the one like breaking it up with humor and lightheartedness. So
Yeah.
I think all overall it was really well done, and it's clear to see why Stevenson got such like critical acclaim from this, and now she's working on like LeBron James and other like mainstream comics and stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm really
Deserved.
yeah, well deserved. I'm really happy to have read this, and like I would wholeheartedly recommend this to my friends, and I hope Megan reads it, and like 2 weeks later she comes up to me and she's like, oh my god, I loved it! Yeah, because I don't know, this is, sometimes people are like, oh, comics, just superheroes, and they don't understand like the depth, and this is one of those ones I would introduce to people who like fantasy comics and who are into like, you know, that kind of stuff, but like oh, comics, like this is one of those ones I would recommend to those people, just to be like, look, it's more.
Well, and it's neat that you mentioned that too, because a lot of things, well, a few parts of it are very like counter-conventional. Like there's that part where Golden Loin shows up and it's just like, oh, Ballister's like, oh, I should have known you'd show up. And Nimona's just like, oftentimes she's just like, how are you even surprised at this point? Like, he always shows up. So it points out those kinds of, not flaws, but like just conventional things that you would, yeah. So, yeah, no, those things are awesome. I like those little tidbits that she says just like off in the little corner here.
Yeah, no, that's pretty good. Okay, I'm gonna try to get Megan's attention. And then she's reading a comic. I'm gonna text her. I'm going into Facebook now. I'd be like, hey. And I'm also gonna take this opportunity to get my Jughead thumbnail up. Jughead. Did I get, I think this is a thing? Okay, cool.
I'm going to keep signaling Megan with my thumbs to try and... Oh, there we go!
Okay, cool.
I'm back!
Sweet, just in time. So we went through the spoilers, and now we're done. And now we're going to talk about Jughead. This is one of the many variant covers. There's a bunch. I really liked the Zdarsky one, obviously, because it was awesome. And I went to the like launch and I got mine like sketched by Chip, and it got
nice
signed.
one.
I'm just like, ah! I love how he writes my name in hearts. I love it when he signs like my comics, being like, "I love you, Alex." I'm just like, Chip. Oh man, it's so funny.
It all feels genuine.
Well, it is, cause you know, like, I don't know if you were there, but I knew him before he was like super famous. So, like comics famous. He was like National Post famous. My brother freaked out when I was like, "Oh yeah, I know Steve Murray / Chip Zdarsky." He's like,
right.
He's in the newspaper. But now he's like world-class comics famous, which is like even better. I was so excited when it like was announced that he was writing Sex Criminals. So I'm like super on that Chip Zdarsky bandwagon. Everything he does, I will buy it in issues. I super support that. We talked about Howard the Duck in one of our other book clubs, so
he's blowing up.
Yeah, like mad hardcore. Like he used to do this thing, I don't know if he still does it, he used to do this thing at conventions where like if you pay him $5 or like ask him, he'll sign a comic as Stan Lee. Just for shits and giggles, because like he does silly stuff like that all the time. And like earlier this year, I saw online a picture of Stan Lee with a piece of paper that says "Kiss me like I'm Chip Zdarsky," and I was just like freaking out. Amazing. So funny. So yeah, I'm a huge fan. But let me properly introduce this without like let me keep my fangirl in check. So this is Jughead. So Archie Comics, as a publisher, has decided like, yo, we're successful, but let's kick it up a notch, you know? So they're doing this thing where they're relaunching their core titles. So a couple months ago, they relaunched Archie, like came up with a new Archie #1. And I read it, and I thought it was interesting. They, you know, like, because Archie's got these, like, characters and situations that are so classic, and, like, even if you don't read a lot of Archie comics, if you've read them, you know who, you know, Betty and Veronica are in relation to Archie. So they set up a couple things differently with that first new Archie issue. So one of the things I really enjoyed about it was how they did the character Jughead. The character Jughead in that first Archie comic was, like, on the surface looked like classic slacker who likes to eat food and play video games, but was, you know, subtly doing things like, you know, trying to set Archie up and make him look good and stuff like that without anybody else knowing. And I really liked that about the character. And so when I heard new Jughead #1 written by Chip Zdarsky, I was like, oh, he's going to take advantage of that. It's going to be interesting. Like, I've never been a huge Archie fan because I don't like stagnancy. I don't like it when the characters are stagnant and the storyline doesn't move anywhere.
Right.
And that's sort of like Archie's always been sort of a gag comic, so you know the characters, you know their scenario, and then each strip or each, like, you know, double digest is worth of, like, a bunch of gags of these same characters.
That ends with a pun.
Yeah, and they don't really go anywhere. So that's, like, one of the reasons I'm not huge into Archie's generally, because I like plot and character development and, like, laughs are fun, but only for a while type thing. So that's one of the reasons I picked Jughead for this book club, because I think it's interesting. Even if we don't love it, I think it'll be interesting. So who wants to go first?
I went first with Nimona.
Oh, calling me out. Well, I literally just caught up on it while I was away from the headphones. But I really liked it. Like, I think I read Howard the Duck #1 and this, and that's literally all I really read by Chip Zdarsky. And this, like, I definitely want to read more because it's a really well tied together story, which might be weird to say in that, like, shouldn't all stories be well tied together, but it's, like, very clear, like, where Jughead starts as this slacker, as, like, guy who does not care, as guy who thinks the world is meaningless besides getting fed and playing video games. And then Betty is out protesting for a cause, and he's like, what an idiot. And then shit gets real when a new principal comes around and says burgers are canceled. And he loses his mind, and my only, I think, complaint is that, like, so I'm not a big high fantasy or Game of Thrones fan, and it makes, like, a big Game of Thrones reference in this dream that Jughead has. Yeah, right there, Game of Jones. And I, like, almost skipped over it entirely. I was like, I don't care about this stuff. But the very fact that at the end of the dream, it's Betty going, it's really sad that Archie and the other guy died, and Jughead's like, but burgers though, right? And that's literally, like, the one thing that saved that part of the comic for me. But, like, as it goes on, like, even more so, Jughead is like, this is a cause that I believe in. I need burgers. And then as it goes on, they're like, well, you can make burgers. And he's like, excuse me? Excuse me there? Yep, there's him flipping his shit just before he passes out up on screen. And, yeah, he learns how to make burgers. So he starts to make, I'm going to go spoiler and just explain the whole story. So spoiler. Jughead's making the burgers, and people are going nuts. And he's like, we're going to sell the burgers in the cafeteria. And Principal's like, excuse me? This new bad guy principal, who I think is probably going to be the bad guy of the Jughead first arc.
Yeah.
And Jughead's like, I totally can, and all the money is going to go to the protest that Betty is supporting. So it comes full circle, which is something I really like, and something that I think can be hard to do. And when it's done well, I appreciate it a lot. And so Zdarsky nails it. The art is super cute. It suits the gags that Zdarsky goes for. It suits the characters of like Archie and Jughead. So yeah, definite recommend for me. Like, I thought this was really well pulled off by this team.
I'm just gonna jump in there and show you guys this image of this new principal, and like right away you can see the dichotomy between like him and Weatherby. You know, like Weatherby's like old and he's nice, and this guy's like young and he's stern. He's very stern. So I totally agree with Megan, as like this guy is totally gonna be a threat in the Archie Jughead universe. I'm gonna throw.
He looks like he came from the army and then decided to be a principal.
Yeah, and that's totally. I bet that's totally what they were going for in their character design on that. I'm gonna throw it to Helena.
Yeah, your turn.
I feel kind of bad now because I didn't like it.
That's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
I'm sorry.
That's fine.
But
I'm gonna fight her.
Let me just say though that I have never ever read an Archie comic before this one. And my thing is fantasy. So I like high school dramas are not my thing. So I kind of figured when Alice said that we were reading this one that I wasn't gonna like it. I did try to. I did have some good comments. I really like the way that the dog is drawn when he's jumping on Archie.
Okay, I gotta follow.
The dog is good though.
It's really good, and I like the first panel or the first page where you see like Jughead like going through the video games and like increasingly all the junk food is like piling up around him. Yeah. I was on board for that because like I've had those gaming sessions and they're awful for you, but they're really fun. But yeah, like after that, like I just really quickly lost interest.
Well, it sounds like by default, like it couldn't win you over.
No, I'm sorry. Like I tried. I really, really tried. And I was even like when they did because I like Game of Thrones, and when they did the jump over to that, like parody of it, I guess. I was like, okay, like maybe, but even it was it's just like I don't know what happened. Like
I'm gonna show you the dog moment on the screen.
Yeah. That's awesome. I have a really hairy dog, so like I connect with that really well. That's me when I come home. But yeah, I don't know. I wasn't crazy really about any aspect of it. The art didn't do it for me. I don't know. I don't know. It just their faces looked really weird to me in a lot of the panels. I don't know if that. And again, I feel like this is like the Archie comics are very like a distinctive branch in the comic family. I don't know if you will, but so I get like if you liked them before, like that might be your thing. But yeah, for me, it didn't do it. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand where you're coming from, being someone who doesn't read Archie comics, being like, oh, I have to for this book club. By the way, thank you. To speak about the art, Erica Henderson has like a really specific stylized type of art,
and I will say like it's really easy to spot her faces.
Yeah, for sure.
So like but the thing is, her stuff isn't like typically Archie, and with this new series, they are specifically going out of their way to make it look and feel different. Like they don't, if you look at their clothes, they don't have 50s style clothes anymore. Right? They wear more modern stuff. But
well, even in like the regular Archie Digest, like when like the modern Archie Digest gag comics, like they're usually actually like very well referenced modern clothes. But I do get what you're saying. Like even like in the back of Jughead, they have like the regular gag style Archie comics, and you can see the clear difference between the styles.
Yeah. Yeah, I read that as well. I kind of found that one a little bit more funny, to be honest.
Oh, really?
Just because it was so over the top. I was like, okay, well, like, believability is thrown out the window at this point. Like, let's just get all these government officials watching a high school football game. It's just ridiculous at that point. So I kind of liked it a bit more.
I feel like Helena and I need to have a chat after this show.
Hey, I
I
didn't bring you here to start a fight, guys. So don't.
I don't mean to start a fight. I'm sure people who like it like really appreciate it, and I can totally like get on board with that. It's just for me, I won't be reading one.
No, that's totally fair. I guess.
I'm trying to find like one of the good gags because like I really like sort of like the subtle stuff and the hinting and also just all the burger jokes. All of the burger jokes. I feel like they played that theme really well. I didn't mind the high fantasy Game of Thrones reference in the middle, but I do feel like that is going to extremely date this comic, and when it comes out in trades and when people read it in the future, things like these like very current pop culture references don't serve for like a longevity of the comic. Do you know what I mean?
No, absolutely. No, I feel the same way where it's kind of a pet peeve where like a certain show or a comic needs to make references for jokes about like pop culture topics, and it's like you are shooting yourself in the foot come like 5 years later.
Yeah.
I was really curious actually if that was like, is that a typical trope for the Jughead comic? Like he goes into his own head and fantasizes himself in like popular cultural.
I'm not super familiar enough with Jughead Digest to answer that. What about you, Alice?
Sorry, I was like reading this comic. What'd you say?
Is that a typical trope for the Jughead comics, like that he goes into his own head and kind of pictures himself in these outlandish but like popular cultural referencing scenarios?
I don't know if it's like specifically Jughead. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that I don't think it is.
Okay. My concern at that point is this like pandering to like what's popular now?
Right. Yeah, that's kind of what it ends up feeling like. Even though like the rest of the story I do like, in the way again like it comes full circle. It's like I really didn't think that this daydream was necessary to the story. It almost felt like padding.
Yeah.
I'm gonna agree. Maybe it's something that like the creative team came up with as a way to like get from that scene to the next, the scene before to the scene after. Because it could have been like, oh, you know, like they wrote the rest of the comic and then they were like, oh, you could put a couple more pages in there, and then like did that. Or it could be something that like someone had an idea, they really liked it, and they wouldn't let it go, and they had to find a way to like put it into the comic. I don't think it was I mean, it was fine. I don't think there was anything like inherently wrong with it, other than it will date the comic. It really sets it in our time, but like that could also be what they're going for, because they're with this new series, they are going for characters that develop. They are going for a plot that is continuing, so that could be part of like the new types of Archie comics that we're seeing. But I really, really like this home ec class scene.
Oh yeah.
Because like one of the things that like I feel like that will connect with a lot of people, because it's one of those things like I know how to cook. I'm not super great at it, but I know how to cook, and I can like search a recipe and I can look online and figure out how to do it. And like most of the times, even if it doesn't come out like perfectly, it's still like edible. There's only like twice since we moved in that we made something that was so bad it was not edible. But I feel like that is one of those things that's going to connect with your young American audience, because there are a lot of people who just like take something out of the freezer and put it into the microwave, and showing them that like, yes, it is possible. You can make your own burgers. I just really like it as like a PSA type service announcement. You know,
that's cute.
It is possible. Nutrition.
All at your fingertips.
Yeah, and it's also way cheaper to cook than it is to like buy like even fast food. If you're doing it on the regular. So I feel like I just feel like that was a good thing for the publishers to include in this comic because it's a subtle way of being like, you know, there's more options out there in terms of that. So that was one of those things like it wasn't like essential. I mean, it was essential to the story, but it wasn't like a thing that they had to do. But I really liked it for that reason. I don't know if that's gonna change anybody's life or if it's gonna do anything, but just the fact that like it shows that Jughead's like, wait, you can make burgers?
Right.
And so, you know, it might connect with a reader out there who's like, oh yeah, I guess, you know, everything comes from somewhere. I guess I could figure out how to make whatever it is they're eating right as they're reading it. So I kind of like that. As a side note, that's the thing.
No, I agree. No, it's a nice touch. It's almost I don't know. It's sort of like if teenagers are the main audience, then it's like let's give back to teenagers. I don't know what I'm saying here really, but it's sort of like this is what you're all capable of as teenagers. Even as teenagers, if there's some food you want, you know, you don't have to depend on what's just being given to you. You can make something. If that is the point you're making.
Yeah, that is the point I'm making. I like it when, you know, when you watch like children's TV shows and they specifically have to have like the moral of the story is, and you're just like everybody, even like children, I roll at that. But there's plenty of ways to give a moral of the story or to, you know, to provide those sort of insights without banging people over the head with it. And I felt this was just like a really interesting, subtle way to do it. And I really like when they put the character in the sort of ignorant position and then they learn to do something and they didn't think they could do. And so it sort of shows like the people that are reading it like, oh, you know, like, I mean, if Jughead can do it, I can do it. So I just thought it was a nice touch. I thought it was well done. I like the art. I think Erica Henderson is a really good choice for this book. She also does Squirrel Girl, which we read previously in our book club, which is really good. So yeah, I think it's a good start. I don't know how long they're gonna keep this series running. But I think because of the number of titles, like new number ones they are launching.
How many are they launching?
Okay, so I'm not 100% sure because there was this like fun, weird thing that happened when they announced that they were relaunching Archie #1, that Archie Comics made a Kickstarter.
Right.
This book and like 2 other books, where they were like, oh, you know, we want to see what people like, and if we can get enough backers, we'll create these books. But in reality, Archie doesn't need money to make new books. Like, they have money, so them being like, oh, we'll give it to you if you pay for it first is really shitty, and so I feel like that's why they took it down. Like, a lot of game developers are doing that too, where like they're like, oh yeah, we want to fund this game, but we're just going to use the Kickstarter to see how many people are actually going to put their money where their mouth is. Like, they don't trust people on the internet saying we want this. They want people to show that they will with their money.
Yeah, which is
really
like, it's a fine idea, but it's not what Kickstarter is for.
Yeah, and so yeah, so like shortly after they launched that Kickstarter, they took it down. I'm sure, you know, people ask those types of questions and allegations.
Yeah,
but
I'm
pretty sure they're putting out those other comics. I don't know if it's going to be like a Marvel thing where they'll put out a new #1 and they'll put out 6 issues, and then for the next arc, they'll renumber it #1. So, I mean, we'll see. I feel like they're gonna put more backing behind it because they do have the reputation and the money, and they still are producing the classic style double digests and stuff like that for people who aren't into getting like the new issues. They're still making like more of those like floppies that you get at like newsstands and stuff because that's like their bread and butter.
I think it'd be fine for them, specifically Archie Comics, if they just did like 6 issues and then relaunched again at a #1 because unlike Marvel, although it's been a couple months, you know, well, especially unlike Marvel or DC, there's no big events, or there shouldn't be, I would think, in Archie Comics. Like, these characters don't change. They will always be in high school. Jughead will always love burgers. Archie will always be about Betty and Veronica. You know, they're supposed to be stagnant characters, and even though there might be some character development, it's really easy for them to start again from #1 to just like have another story in Riverdale. So that could be something they take advantage of. I think it's something they could easily do and would still work really well within that universe.
And this format, this new format they're doing it. So I mean, it's possible. Only time can tell. I think it's interesting. But then again, I also think it's only interesting and good from the perspective of A, people who already like Archie Comics and Jughead, and B, people who are young and can adapt to a new format and can jump on this bandwagon without like friction. I think the older readers of Archie's are just going to still pick up the double digest they get in supermarkets. I know a lot of publishers are trying to rejigger their formats to reach out to like a mythical young new audience, but I don't know if it's necessarily there. Do you know what I mean?
The audience?
Yeah, like this mythical like new audience they're gonna reach out to you by relaunching this as like a new hip comic book issue. I think the people who like it are already gonna check it out, and the people who don't, like Helena, might check it out, but might still not be into it because it's still just a comic book about these kids jerking around in high school.
Well, I think having like these modern artists like Erica Henderson or like you have all these different covers, especially like they've got Fiona Staples doing one of the covers for Archie. I think you know, these very stylish new artists that we have jumping onto like the creative teams will be a big help to that. And probably this is probably especially why they did it, although I have no idea, making these like very modern references like Game of Thrones will probably help right now to bring people in. They're like, okay, maybe if these new readers for whatever reason don't know Archie or Jughead, they're like, oh, but I do know Game of Thrones. Let me look a little further. It's like, oh, but I do like Erica Henderson, or I do like Chip Zdarsky. Like, having these already big names on this book are probably a big draw. And it's obviously, I think, one of the reasons they're hiring these people. It's like, okay, well, we need this name to bring in new readers to this new format of our characters.
But what I'm saying is I don't know if that increase in new readers is enough to offset the drop in old readers who really just liked it the way they are. But then again, the way that Archie is doing it is they're not like stopping their double digests or the stuff. So I feel like they're still getting that older audience with those. So it's just interesting. I mean, we'll see, depending on how many more new titles they launch and what they do with that. But I feel like this is the product of Afterlife with Archie and the Chilling Tales of Sabrina to fill in Helena and anybody else who might not know. Afterlife with Archie is like an Archie comic where zombies attack, and it's just like a zombie invasion, so it's really dark. Pardon?
That I might get into.
So it's really dark. It's specifically titled like in the corner. It's like Archie horror, and the Chilling Tales of Sabrina is like a reimagining of Sabrina the Teenage Witch, where it shows like, oh yeah, you know, you become a witch, you like swear your life to Satan, and you know, it's drawn in such a way that it's like really eerie, and they really play up that like creepy eerie angle.
Yeah, it's very like 60s trope horror.
Okay. Yeah, I could get into that. But that's again, I'm big on the whole fantasy. There has to be some fantasy aspect of it for me to really like give it a try.
So Afterlife with Archie began in issues, I think, 2 years ago, and that's been super successful. So I feel like the publisher saw that, and then also, you know, launched Chilling Tales of Sabrina, and then saw the interest for that, and was like, all right, well, we can do something with this.
Yeah.
I feel like that, in part, sparked this new series. I don't know if it's sustainable, but if they can do it, you know.
Best of luck, but yeah.
I think when you've got a property like the Archie characters, like, why not try new things?
Yeah, especially when they can try new things and still do the old stuff at the same time.
Yeah.
So you're literally, it's like literally a win-win. So yeah, I would, pardon me. Like I said, I would recommend this to people who like Archie and who like reading like current comics and issues. I don't know if I would recommend this to somebody who doesn't currently like Archie, unless they like Erica Henderson or Chip Zdarsky, because I agree with you, Megan, that is a gateway into this comic. But I think it was good. I think there was substance in it. I don't know. I'm not gonna pick up the issues just because like I don't have money. I don't have time to read them. I'm not even joking. Like, I have a stack of 8 Wicked and Divine comics issues that I bought over the last 8 months that I haven't had time to read, and it's like, well, there's a new trade out. I could have just waited and saved myself like $8 by just buying the trade when it came out. So I don't think this is worth it for me in issues, but digital sales are making a huge like leap, and I feel like this is going to be good with digital readers.
Yeah, no, for sure. Nothing intelligible to add to that. I'm just like, yes, I agree.
Helena, any closing remarks on this?
Archie sucks.
No! No, I'm a full believer that if you're into something, you should like be into it and fully into it. It's just, this is not my thing, but I would, and to Megan, you should definitely go read Nimona, and I would highly recommend Nimona to anyone who likes fantasy, but also likes maybe a little bit of dark humor and just like people pointing out the problems or like the conventions of typical fantasies, because it also does that a bit. That's pretty interesting. I like it when it does that.
Cool.
You got me.
Yeah, Megan, you should actually read Nimona. It's like,
I should.
Really good. And then when you do, you can come back and chat with me. It won't be in the book club, but you know, I'm available.
That's your homework. When you're done, you can come back next time when you have something to say.
I pretty much just like asked you out on a date to talk with me about comics, but like whatever. Jeez.
Megan, if you play this right, you could get a free dinner.
Oh, you're back. Hey, miss me?
Already. So that ends sort of the discussion part of the episode. There's a couple things I want to bring up before we close. I want to show you guys. We're doing next month, because, you know, December and Christmas, I know people aren't super into doing things at the end of December. We usually have our book club at the end of the month. So, and because I pushed this one a week, I'm combining both the November and the December book clubs into one book club meet at the beginning of December, because I pushed this one a week because I wasn't feeling well. So it's going to be Thursday, December 10th at 10 p.m. I'm just going to share with you guys.
At 10 p.m.?
Sorry. Why did I say 10 p.m.? 7 p.m. Did I put that 10 p.m.? No, it's December 10th. Okay, so I'm not going to show you everything. But where did I go? Okay, sorry, guys. So this is the event. There's a link up top, and I'll put it in the comments of this video. But basically, if you go to Quintessential Comics, our events have the book club. And one thing I wanted to point out is we ask you, the viewers, and the people who are participating in the book club to vote on which graphic novel and which new comic book issue you want to read. First off, as you can see by this comment, a lot of the Marvel #1s are like continuations of stuff before Secret Wars, and I couldn't find something in like all like that I knew for sure was like an absolute #1, so that's why there's nothing in here that's from Marvel. I just picked ones I thought were interesting, and also for graphic novel, I'm sort of out of ideas in a sense. Like I want to read Empowered, but you can always add an option. The only thing I request is that if you do add an option, just do a quick Google search, see if the comic is still in print, see if maybe it's available in the library. I like to get stuff that's available in the library so people living in Toronto or that have a good library system can read the comics and participate if they want to. So I am looking for suggestions. If you want to be in the video part and discuss this with me, you can contact me through Facebook or through the page just being like, I want in, and I'll tell you how to get on. So that's just like quick housekeeping, is like I want to let you know, doing a new one. Vote for your books. It's way better if you vote for books, because that means you can read something you're interested in, and I try to get people to sign on for the video discussion or for the chat in advance, so they know what they're reading, they have time to read it, and they can suggest things if they want to. If you're in the video, ideally, if you're in the video, I want you to be able to suggest your comics and you know, give us ideas, so that way you are interested in what we're reading. So that's pretty much it. The other thing I quickly wanted to recommend. So I'm part of our Toronto Public Library Union, Local 4948. This is a shirt I got from them. It tells a little bit of our struggle. There's a lot of issues, but mainly it's this precarious work thing where because we're not full-time employees, we don't get benefits or like rights, and it's just like, it's really sad. So the union put together this video about precarious work in the library, and so it's in my YouTube channel under likes, and I'm also just gonna screen share the video so you can see, like, it's titled Precarious Work in the Toronto Public Library, and you should check it out. It's got a lot of really great information about what's going on, and it's just really hard because people don't want their taxes increased, and it's like for any reason. Like, they want healthcare, they want public services, they want transit, but they don't want to increase their income tax or their property tax or anything like that. And the result is that we have, crumbling infrastructure, and like, even though I work for the city, I can't be employed full-time by the city. I have to have a second job. So I'm not going to spend all day talking about that, but it is a cause that I do care about, and if you guys could, like, spend some time to check it out and maybe, like, message your city councilor and be like, the public library is a public service we care about, and please support it. That would be so super cool. Yeah, that's it. I just wanted a quick shout out. I'm sorry. There's just some things you get super passionate
There's a lot of
about.
feelings.
So
Very
many
close.
feelings. So there's some things you get super passionate about, and if somebody else was on my show and they were like, "Here's something I'm passionate about. Do you mind if I do a quick shout out at the end?" I would say yes. So I'm gonna do it for me. What up? Helena, is there anything you wanted to shout out to?
No, I'm good. I think
Is there
actually
anything you're
I'm glad
super
that
passionate about?
I'm actually glad. Well, I also work at the Toronto Public Library, so I'm glad that Alice has plugged that because every time it rains, we have a leaky roof. So that would be great if we could get that thing. So yeah, no, I'm good.
Cool. Megan, you've got some super cool comics you should tell our viewers about.
Oh, hey guys, let me tell you about some comics. I'm a comic creator. I do a webcomic called Godslave. It's about a girl thrown into the drama and danger of Egyptian mythology in the modern day. It's at godslavecomic.com. Before that, I also had a webcomic about a girl and a giant dragon and how they have to work through their individual traumas together in the format of magic animal racing. So it's a lot of teenagers and giant monsters with feelings, and that was called Takeoff. And you can find that at megacarter.com/takeoff. And also, it's Transgender Awareness Week this month, so be aware.
And we will be. Thank you. I'm going to catch up on Godslave, so I'm going to say goodbye to you guys. And look at Megan winking at me. Also, dinner.
Thanks.
Nice. So thank you guys for joining this episode of Quintessential Comics Book Club. There's many ways you can join our book club and interact in the video chat and in the comments on the side. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on any of the Quintessential channels or personally on any of the Alice Quinn channels. I want to thank our guests today, Helena and Megan, for joining us with your insightful comments and your wonderful presence. I'm gonna go now because I'm losing my cool. But we'll see you next month on our Quintessential Comics Book Club.
Bye, guys.